Happy Monday. I'm feeling a little clean shaven, like a little bit more alive. Today I just want to do a quick video on another blog post I did a while back and a piece of advice that has continued to help me be a better person where I am right now. And it's something I'm still learning to apply, but I think this one sentence can really help you just make the most of where you are. So let me explain where I got it from, and then I'll tell you what it actually is. So I was listening to a podcast. The podcast is called Strangers, and they cover a big variety of topics. It's basically a story show. And one of the stories they had was of this young woman who was a military wife. And so she was moving from place to place every few months. And this constant moving led her into a depression because she grew up in a small town where she had, quote unquote, deep roots. She knew everyone in the town, everyone knew her. Life was very routine, very ordinary, and she loved that, very familiar. And then when she got married and had this whole new experience of moving, she realized it wasn't what she wanted at all. It was constantly uprooting the roots she was trying to make and making her feel as if her life was constantly on hold for one reason or another. And so during this time, she came across an old woman who was the wife of one of the older people in the same military camp. And the wife, heard her and identified with the struggle she was going to and could relate, because in her younger years she felt a lot of the same way until she started applying this practice, this mindset. And so the sentence, the quote she gave her to think about was the challenge to, quote unquote, bloom where you're planted. And I love that imagery. And so this woman put that into practice and started to see how, even if she was in a place for only 6 months or a year, she could bloom where she was planted. She could make the most of where she was. And, when she would get uprooted, it wasn't like she was starting from scratch again. She was being replanted into a new plot or a new place, but she was still taking with her everything she had developed and everything she had become during that time. So that's something I've been trying to be better at, trying to bloom where I'm planted, trying to realize that where I am right now isn't where I'm always going to be, and that's okay. I can still make the most of it right now. And I think from a biblical perspective, one of the people who does this the best is Joseph in the book of Genesis. We see him thrown in these, horrible situations over and over again. He is, first of all, taken by his brothers and sold, and from there he becomes a slave. But because he practices this idea, he blooms where he's planted, he makes the most of his situation, he gets promoted over and over again within this place. And then when that goes wrong and he ends up in prison, he does the same thing again so that he becomes in charge of other prisoners, where he uses his gift to interpret dreams, and then that again elevates him to the next level where he becomes part ruler over Egypt. And so, his story and that idea is something I try to apply, and I encourage you and challenge you to apply too. How can you bloom where you're planted right now? How can you make the most of your current situation? Because regardless of if this is where you want to be, or if this is where you think God has you, it's for a reason, it's for a purpose, regardless of how you think it might be working out or how useless it might feel to you in the current moment. God has a reason for the season. He has a means to the end of what you're going through. And so, that's just something, that's one of the ideas I want to share with you, because I've seen how much it has helped me be a better person, live more in the present, make the most of where I am right now, and pray to God for him to help me make the most of it, because great things happen. You don't know how this step is going to lead to where you're going next. You can't see the grand scheme of it all, but he can, and that's why he's encouraging you to make the most of the present too, because at the end of the day, that's all we have. All we have is right now. All we have is today, and that's what we have to use to honor him, to glorify him, and to enjoy what he's given us. So that's what I have for you today. I hope you have a beautiful week, that the sun comes out, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.